Hello, Tarak. Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry. Hi, can you
How
hear
you
me?
doing?
I'm
Yeah,
doing
I can hear. I
doing good.
can hear you. I can
Give
hear
me
you.
1 minute. I just put some lights. Oh, thankfully, you reminded me. I was going to go out. Oof. I'm doing back to back.
Mm.
So yeah, we can go live. So it's a discussion, right? I don't need to show infra code base. It's a discussion with me about the mindset of DevSecOps, the way I started, and so on, right?
Yeah, we are live already. Actually, we went live by 5 p.m. So,
Okay.
uh, anyway, thank you for joining now.
Thank you so much
My name is.
for welcoming me. Yes.
I'm just going to introduce myself and introduce you and introduce what we are doing, even though we've communicated that in a flyer. My name is Olamide Kosile. I am the founder of Tech Tribe, and I will be the host of this session. And for people who are watching us from home, we're really excited to have you all here for what promises to be a very insightful conversation. So, today's webinar focuses on common DevOps mistakes and how to avoid them. As many of us know, DevSecOps is no longer optional. It's a critical part of building secure, scalable, and reliable systems. Yet many teams still struggle with getting it right. Whether it's integrating security too late, or relying on tools without culture, or slowly delivery in the name of compliance. This session is designed to help us learn from those challenges and take away practical lessons we can apply immediately. So I'm pleased to be joined by our guest speaker, Tarak. Um, Tarak is a very good friend of mine with a shared vision. Tarak brings deep experience in DevOps and security, and he has worked closely with teams to design and build and also to secure modern delivery pipelines. He also has a platform currently that was built where you can do all these things. I mean, he was showing me the amazing job they've done yesterday, and you will see for yourself if I can't overstate the importance of having such platform as a DevOps person. So I want you to sit tight. If you have any question, you can put it up. Is open to answer all our questions. Once again, welcome to this Tech Tribe live stream. Let's get started, and I will hand over it to Tarak to begin. Tarak, you can have the
Yes.
floor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. As you know, the life of the founder is very busy, but really wanted to be here today with you, with the community, to really share first who I am, how I started, the vision that I have for the company that we're building. So I'm Tarak. I'm 36 years old. I started working when I was 20. I started working actually not as an engineer or a DevOps or even a DevSecOps, but I have a double master degree, one in law and one in business from the US and from Europe, from France. I'm French. I started working with bigger organizations around the world. You can think Sodexo, Continental, Deloitte, and all. From when I was 20 to when I was 26, and then I created two companies between 26 to 30. And my goal was actually always to give back to the community, always help, for example, for the two companies that I created to help them build, launch, and grow all of the social businesses. Because I do believe at the end of the day, when we create a company, the goal of creating a company is to have an impact. It could be an impact on education, it could be an impact on our environment, it could be an impact on social. But I do believe that the reason that we create companies is not only to make money, but to have a social impact as well. Then 5 years ago, I joined a company. It was really focused on cloud infrastructure design. And this is where I started building my personal brand on LinkedIn. This is where I started really learning how to build cloud and multi-cloud infrastructures using Terraform, for example. So I build a lot of infrastructures on AWS, on Azure, on GCP, on OCI as well. It was more ClickOps, so the goal was really to drag and drop, to be able to configure everything manually. So what I really liked about it was it gave me a really good experience on the way we could manage at scale cloud infrastructures. And then I joined a cybersecurity company that just became a unicorn yesterday. It is a Belgium company where I was basically sales growth, but during this time I took around 40 certifications. I took certification in DevSecOps, I took certification in cloud, in AI, and so on. At the end of the day, I don't believe that you need to be an expert in your field, but one thing that you need to have is the mindset to always, every day, do better. It's the mindset of always, every day, like remain curious and always giving back to the community. I wouldn't be where I am today without the community that supported me since day one. And today, building Infra Code Base with my co-founder Justin, I directly see that. Within 2 months, we have been growing very, very fast. We are a global brand already. A lot of people know us. Even though, like I just said, we created a company 2 months ago. And we created the company coming from two challenges. The first one was AI, is how can we make sure that especially enterprise companies who are our customers today, they can use AI at scale and be focused really on cloud infrastructure management. So the first thing that we did before thinking about writing code or doing the design on cloud, it was really like creating what we call the AI foundation layer with like the goal is really like to give the context to the AI. When I speak about context, I think about, for example, all the rules of the company, all the documents, all the workflows, like that. When you directly start working and building with AI on cloud infrastructure, then the AI directly has all of your context, and you can work on that on more, let's say, more deterministic approach and so on. And yes, you're right. We did a session yesterday. I showed you how the platform was working. You're really impressed by the time that how you were able to build an AWS infrastructure. You shared it on LinkedIn. So for the people who are really interested about it, they can directly look at your profile. This is where you share it. And one thing that is interesting is how by embedding the security directly at the SaaS level, meaning at the code level, we can directly make sure that once we generate with AI the code, then we can test the code in terms of quality, in terms of security, before doing or before creating even a repository. When I speak about GitHub repository, I speak about GitHub, but I speak about Git providers. The main ones obviously are ADO, Bitbucket, GitLab, and GitHub. And this is why I wanted to speak about DevSecOps, because to be honest, I directly see that we think a lot about DevOps, we think a lot about speed, especially with AI, but I really want people to think about security as well. And security is not a bottleneck. Security should be directly embedded in everything that we do and is directly included as part of the SDLC. It's not something that we need to think. We don't think about security at the end of the process. We actually think about security day one, even D0, when we even start planning the project that we're going to work on.
Thank you, Tarak. Let's not climb. Let's start climbing the tree from the ground. What is DevSecOps? It's not DevSecOps, and it's not as if security started yesterday, but we just started hearing about DevSecOps, right? We know about cybersecurity, we know about DevOps, but what is DevSecOps?
Is exactly what you just said. It's the intersection between both. So DevOps basically for me is not even a job; it's a mindset. So DevOps is basically how you are going to handle a project end to end. It could be a cloud infrastructure project. It's a mindset of directly working on the SDLC, planning all the steps, understanding everything. And the DevSecOps is like for all of the steps of the SDLC, how are you going to embed security, like I was saying, D0. You start a project. First thing you do is not directly to code or to design, for example, for us, is directly thinking about, okay, what's the plan? How I'm going to build the project? What are the objectives that I'm going to have? So you embed security directly in the plan. And then for each step, for example, once you generate code or you write code manually or with AI, basically you need to make sure that you test the code quality, code security. When you test the code, for example, in terms of code security and code quality, you can use, in our world, we use TSEC, we use checkup, we use, for example, Terraform validates. And like I said before, you even do that at the code level, even before doing or creating a repository. This is why I see DevSecOps is like, how can we embed security and for developer to not have to do a trade-off between security and speed. Because at the end of the day, if security is already embedded in the way we work, we can scale, so we can still be fast, ship fast, while remaining secure. And I think it's the most important thing.
All right. Now, let's go to the common pitfalls in DevOps or DevSecOps. What is the from your experience? What is the most frequent DevSecOps mistake you see teams make, and why do you think such mistakes keep happening?
I think it's not about the technology, to be honest. It's about the way we collaborate between teams. Like when I was working at this cybersecurity company, one thing that I observed is like there was a friction between the two teams, security team and developer team. Developer team wanted really like to ship fast, and security wanted to like make sure that everything that they were doing was secure. So there was, without DevSecOps, basically security was represented as a bottleneck, like something that is going to hinder the speed of teams. So for me, I always believe that it's a mindset. I always believe that it's a communication, is the way team communicate with each other. And actually, DevSecOps for me, the pitfall is all the thing that people don't think a lot about is they always think about trade-off. Like I cannot be fast or while remaining secure, or I cannot be secure while remaining fast. For me, it's not the case. If security is embedded day one, like I already said it, is embedded day one, you can ship very fast while remaining secure. If you don't do it, you break prod. So at the end of the day, you lose more time not thinking about security, but if you think about security day one.
Now, you just mentioned something which was going to be my next question. You said security should be embedded in day one. So the question I was going to ask you was, how early should security be integrated into CI/CD pipeline, right? And what challenges do teams face in shifting security left? How, in your experience, right? Most people just wait until, I mean, I worked with someone recently where they didn't put security into consideration until they've already provisioned their infrastructure, everything is already running, and they now hire the pen tester to come to come and test the whole application and infrastructure, and they gave them almost 80 pages of remediation to work on. So they had to hire someone to come and start working on to remediate those security. So at what point do you think, as far as CI/CD is concerned, at what point do you think security should be integrated?
Day one, or even day zero, is like when we think about CI/CD, but let's take a step back. Even by drawing, for example, a plan, like mapping all the steps of the project, this is what we also call CI/CDs. Basically, for me, it's a process. So by mapping all the steps from the plan to basically the build and all, then the goal is really like to embed security in each step on the way. And security starts, for example, for me, at the code level. It starts at the code level, like even, for example, when one best practice that I'm also teaching people when they use our product is like, okay, you give a specification, you give a prompt. Based on this, even before doing like creating a repository or even provisioning, make sure that you test the code. And when I speak about test, you speak a lot about security, but for me, it's both. It's code quality, code security. For example, syntax. If the code is not written with a good syntax, then it's not a code security issue, it's a code quality issue. So for me, both are important: code quality, code security. So even before doing a repo or provisioning, you run TFSec, you run checkup, you run Terraform validate, you run Terraform plan. And once you have done it, then now you can actually provision your infrastructure with confidence. And you push it to 100%. Like the score, code quality score, code security score, for me, it's a must. I always try to push it like 98, between 98 to 100%. Like that, I spend more time on at the code level, because after I know that once I provisioning on my in production is going to work perfectly. So I try to spend more time at the code level to make sure that everything that I wrote or generated with AI is actually secure and well configured, and then after I can scale my work.
All right. Well, thank you. The next question I want to ask is regarding tool overload, right? We have so many security tools on the internet today, right? Now, with so many security tools available, how can teams choose the right ones without slowing down development? One of the things you mentioned earlier was creating balance between a secured development and a timely development, right? You don't want to be too fast while you leave out security, and you don't want to focus too much on security while you are lagging behind, right? Now, how do you create one? First question, how do you create that balance, right? And back to the tools, we have so many tools, like I said. How do we know the right tool to use, right? Considering.
It depends on the context. Like I was saying, like for us, we work on infrastructure as code. Infrastructure as code, we already know, like you can run Terraform commands. Terraform commands, you don't need to buy it. Basically, it's not even a question of cost, I believe, or it's not a question of tooling. It's a question of mindset. You need to think about it. If you don't even think about it, I give you the best tool in the world for free, you will not use it. It's because you simply don't think that about it. You already think about shipping fast without remaining secure. It's not that you don't want to be secure. It's just that you have so many things, so many deadlines and so on, that you need to respect your deadline. And to do this, you need to ship fast. So I don't think it's a tool, to be honest. I don't think it's a tool issue or we have too many tools. Yes, we have too many tools, but at the end of the day, we don't have too many tools. Like first think about, okay, tools like that are open source or tools that are free. Like Terraform commands are free. You don't need to buy anything. Just think about it. So for me, it's not that we have too many tools. It's first think that you need to test your code before doing the provisioning. Once you do it, once you think about it, then you take a step back and you say, what are the tools that are open to the community? What are the tools that are open source? And based on that, you do your work, you scale it. So it's not a question of tools. Again, it's a question of mindset. It's a question of process. It's a question of team collaboration. And the tool is later, day two.
Now, let me ask about culture. I mean, you said DevOps is a mindset. It's not a tool. One of the things you said earlier. So I want to talk about culture and collaboration. How much of DevSecOps success is about culture compared to, I mean, if you're talking about security now, we can say security success is all about the kind of tools you use and automation and all those things, right? But we also said DevOps entirely. It's a culture, it's a mindset, right? So, in DevSecOps totally now, how much of DevSecOps success is about culture and not tools? I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
90% is about culture and 10% is about tools. If you have the right culture in mind, if you are able to collaborate with other people, because DevSecOps means basically you reunite two things. You reunite DevOps, so it's a specific audience, and you bring to this to the table. You bring the security team. How can the two collaborate with each other without creating bottleneck for either or? So for me, it's 90% is culture, it's process, is communication, and after it's 10% remaining which tools I'm going to use. But for me, the main bottleneck or the main solution is how can these two audiences that maybe are not used to working together can collaborate with each other in the best way for the goal of the company or the goal of the project. So 90% is about this team dynamics, and 10% is about the tools.
That's a good one. Now, I'm going to ask you for a real life scenario based on your experience. But can you share a real world example of a security incident that could have been prevented with a better DevSecOps practices, but was not prevented?
I signed in here with a lot of companies, so I cannot go into more details. But think every time you break prod, why do you break it? Why, for example, I'm not speaking only about infrastructure as code, but for example, think about SQL injection, or think about like, why does it happen? It happens because I don't want to blame anyone because my goal isn't to blame. My goal is to help and to make things better. But if things happen, it's because we miss a step in the process. So every time we break prod, every time there is an attack, every time there is a vulnerability, it means that I believe that it was directly shifting left. It could have happened at the code level, but because we don't do SAST or we don't do SEA, or now with CSPM we don't really run all of this, then this is something that could happen directly. So you see a lot of companies, even huge companies today, enterprise companies that are having like security vulnerabilities and that people are going to exploit. And one of the reasons is also on DevSecOps, is to be able to really control everything from the first line of code that has been generated to the last resources that have been provisioned in the cloud provider.
That's nice. Automation versus manual checks. Um, One of the things I'm still going to dwell on this fully, AI. One of the things you showed me the last time we spoke was how easily we can automate processes using AI and all. Now, we can as well automate security as far as DevOps and deployment is concerned. Now, how do you balance automating security or automated security testing with manual code reviewing and security audits? Right, you understand? So you can just put in auto prompts and AI will automate security check. But what level of trust should we put into automation, or is it necessary that we also do manual code review and manual security audit as well? And how do we balance that?
I always thought about automation as something that for me, you only automate something you master. You don't automate something you don't master. You don't automate something you don't control, because for me, automation, when we use automation, is to scale. If you scale bad practices, basically you are doing something wrong. So for me, it's not a trade-off. It's basically first really understand your environment, really like do the code review if you need to do it manually, or for example, into a product, put the right context, put the right rules, feed the context to the AI, for the AI then to have different layers and to behave in an expected way. So you cannot scale something that you don't control, and thinking more about AI like that, it goes way faster, 10 times faster than humans, is also more challenging. But for me, for example, in our product, that's why I was speaking about our product earlier, first thing that we build is the AI foundation layer. First is think about rules, think about workflows, think about, for example, documents. So the more context you give to the AI, the more you feed the context and the more AI is going to behave in an expected way. But again, AI is not really automation. So if we take a step back, first thing is don't automate something that you don't control. Always be in control, even if you spend more time, because once you scale, you will scale with the right foundation. And with AI, it's all about data. If you use data, if you feed the AI the right context and the right data, then you can scale in a more predictable manner.
Yeah, that's good. Now, let's talk about secret management credentials. One of the things hackers look for in applications or platforms are credentials. Yeah. So, what are the common mistakes you think teams make with secret management, and what's the best way you think they can handle credentials safely?
It's hard-coded secrets. For example, right now, if you don't put security process in place, you are going to ship code. For example, you are going to put code on GitHub that are hard-coded. So for me as an attacker, I can directly understand, for example, your password. I can directly get the confidential data and then attack you and then do whatever I want with your system. If I really understand where to get the data and you have not paid attention to make sure that it's not hard coded, then basically I can attack you and I can exploit and your system becomes vulnerable to me. So I think that it's always precipitation. So I also want to make a statement. There is a difference between speed and precipitation. Precipitation is you go fast without controlling what you're doing. Speed is you are in control, and because you're in control, you can go fast. So hard coded, for example, is like me, even with my knowledge. You give me secrets with password and so on. I can do whatever I want with your system.
That's good. Now, how DevSecOps? How do we measure the success of our security? How do we know we are really secured? Is it just when we set out certain security parameters, or when we implement certain tools, and is that enough, or how do we measure success of our DevSecOps?
We need to pay attention when we speak about security. Security means everything and nothing at once. Because like I was speaking earlier about the SDLC. In the SDLC, the first thing is SAST. After you have SAST, after you have SEA, after SEA you have CSPM, after CSPM you have DAST. All of this is all about security. So when we pay attention to security, where do we want to pay attention? In which process we are? For me, for example, every time I'm thinking about shifting left, because if I'm writing a code and I'm testing the code, and basically I see at the end of the day with the data that I have that the code has been well written, it's structured well, the syntax is good. Then, for example, security, there is no misconfiguration or there is no like using the data at the SaaS level, I'm already good. But for example, when developers are using, for example, open source, before getting an open source and including it in your code, the first thing to do is to run a CA. You do a CA, you look at the data, you look at the report, and based on that, you improve. Same thing, CSPM. You have companies like ours, for example, we are able to look at at what has been provisioned in the cloud. From what has been provisioned in the cloud, we are able to do an asset mapping. From the asset mapping, we do an attack threat vector schema, and from that, we're able to remediate. So security means everything and nothing at once. Again, I'm DevSecOps myself. I have 40 certifications. So for me, it's like, where in the process do you think about security? For me, it's at the SaaS level. Other people think security because they already provision thing in the cloud. So it's CSPM or it's DAST. For example, DAST is, for example, you have a website. I'm going to be sure that I cannot exploit the website or the vulnerability or the configuration of your website to be able to infiltrate and go into your login system. So really security, I would say, like, think first about your SDLC, map all the steps, and from all the steps, really, like, based on your context, say where do you want to pay attention most. For me, it's always shifting left to the maximum.
Thank you. Now, let's assume we've done all we could as a developer on our hand, written the code, tested it, and enforced all the security that we can lay our hands on. But in our application, we still have to depend on third-party APIs, third-party platforms, and all right now. How do you assess the security of dependencies and third-party libraries in DevSecOps pipeline?
As with SCA, for example, this is what I was speaking about. We have a great community in terms of open source, but it also means that we always need to check before injecting or before using an open source product. We also need to check the security of what we're doing, and especially if we want to inject or use this open source into our code. So running SCA, for example, is the most vital thing, the most important thing, is because you already passed the code level, you're already thinking about using open source. Before doing that, run SCA product. And I'm sure there will be free product that you can run. So this is
Now,
about tools. Once you have the right guardrails, or once you have the right process in place and the right mindset that for each step you actually need to check everything in terms of security, then you are thinking about tools. SCA is a good example.
now let's talk about AI. Uh, I mean, when people hear AI, it's just ChatGPT. Not to talk down on ChatGPT, I use it almost every day. you know,
Yeah.
but, uh, AI. What threats do you think AI poses to DevSecOps? Because now years before now, 5 years. Let me just go good 5 years before now. You can't be an hacker without learning how to how to code. You understand? You for you to be an hacker, you must have worked out. Now someone can just sit down in their house, ask AI to generate something without even understanding it, right? And they can use it to attack. So, what threats do you think AI poses to DevOps?
So what is important is, just to be clear, ChatGPT is not. I will, as a developer, I will never use ChatGPT to generate code. When we use AI, we need to make sure that the code that is generated is actually good. ChatGPT, I will use it for to write. Maybe I will use it, but I will not. I will not generate code on ChatGPT. So it's also distinction. Um, it really depends on what do we call AI. For example, in our situation, the most important part was not to be able to generate code day one. The most important part was to create the AI foundation layer. Based on the AI foundation layer, now when I'm working on AI, he has all of my context, he has all of my rules, he has all of my smartness. And based on that, he can work the way I want it to work. AI is a machine at my service. I use it as a new tech. AI is not magic. AI is a tech. It's a tech that is going to stay, so we need to think about it. Second part is AI is not going to replace people. Maybe the people who are using AI are going to replace the others. Yes, definitely. I do believe, and I'm already training the new generation of DevOps. And also, what is really important is that even when you use AI, you're still in the driver's seat. If you use AI without understanding what you are doing, I I will tell you, don't use AI. Like, okay, the goal, for example, before AI, we were spending 80% of our time writing code and 20% of our time doing code validation in terms of security and quality. Now I think it's the reverse. Generating code is not the bottleneck anymore. So right now is 20% of your time, be very explicit in what you want to get from the AI when you generate code. And 80% of your time is to check that the code that has been generated by the AI is actually valid. You respect all of your rules, and you respect all of your security guidelines as well. So now it's 80% on code validation, 20% on generating code. But even when I'm training the new generation of DevOps, they still need to understand like what they want to get. But definitely, the new generation of DevOps will be way better, way faster, way more secure than the previous generation. And I bet on them.
That That was supposed to be my next question. I was going to ask you where do you see I was going to ask you where you see DevSecOps evolving in the next 2, 3 years, especially with AI-driven automation and cloud-native architectures. Where do you see DevSecOps in the next couple of years?
I think we are going to take a step back on. We always thought that developers, what makes a good developer is someone who is able to write code. I think with AI, now we are going to take a step back to realize that no, it's not because you're going to write code that you are a good developer. Today, I am writing thousands of lines of code in my product infra code base today. Am I a good developer? No, I don't think so. But do I have the mindset of security? Do I know where I want to get? Do I know how to not consider a prompt as a prompt, but as a spec? So do I think about system? Yes, I think about system. Yes, I think about all of that. That's why now a developer for me is not going to only be thinking about, okay, I'm a great developer because I know how to code. No, I don't think you need to be an expert on coding anymore, but you need to be an expert on exploiting, on using, on testing the code that is being generated. So that's why I wanted to do this talk today with you, because I see more and more people going from DevOps to DevSecOps. DevOps, let's say DevOps is to be able to automate or generate code. Code is not a bottleneck, and I can challenge everyone on that. But for me, DevSecOps is the most important because, okay, we go 10 times faster with AI, but it means that if we don't check what has been generated by AI, we are 10 times more vulnerable as well. So for me, the new generation is not going to be thinking about code. It's going to be thinking about, okay, I'm using code, I'm using AI as an enabler to do my boring work. For example, if people think that's boring, for me, I don't think it's boring. I still love to code on SQL, Python, infrastructure as code, but they are more thinking about systems. So it's a shift, and the people who are not ready to take the shift, they are going to be replaced. The people who are ready to take a stand and say, okay, yes, AI is going to stay. AI is not just a hype and is going to be a new tech that everyone is going to use in the future years. I think they are the winners.
Now, um, usually in an organization, you would have a developer and you probably have a cybersecurity. But now we now have a DevSecOps engineer or whatever they call it now. But we still have some organizations, especially maybe a startup, where you only have a developer. Now, what role do you think developers should play in security, and how do you avoid overloading them with security responsibilities? Right? Should a developer also be the DevSecOps engineer? Should the developer be the one handling the security, right? Or should we have a developer have a security engineer and have it? I mean, how do you think for I'm not talking about big organization now. Let's assume a startup. How would you let's assume you are just
For me,
starting up. How would you yeah,
I am not working with startup. I'm working with Fortune 500. So startup, I will say it's less complex. Maybe it's less complex because you have less assets to manage, and if it's very early stage startup, you can actually go there and learn and use the tools to basically as an enabler again. So you can develop your mindset. It's just that, again, it's not about tools, it's about your mindset. Are you curious enough to say, okay, my company, for example, doesn't have a budget to spend on a security team and so on. So, how, as a developer myself, I'm going to invest more time to develop my skills? Am I willing to do it? And if I am, for example, a developer and is not willing to do it, then I would say early stage startup is not the right context for this person. Early stage startup means you need to basically do everything you can to help the company grow. If you're not willing to do everything you can to help the company grow, don't stay in a startup. Go to a big bank or go to a big organization, because you will hinder the growth of the company. So for me, if you're willing to do what it takes to help the company grow and scale, yes, you can learn everything. It's a mindset. If you're not willing to do it, you have nothing to do in the startup. You will hinder and you will be an obstacle of growth.
Now, I have two more questions to ask. The first one is, how do you prevent alert fatigue when you are monitoring your security? How do
It's a
you?
great question.
You
It's a,
can you can see 100, 200 alerts at a time, and you're just trying to. How do you prevent that alert fatigue and while still trying to catch the real threats? How
yes.
do you prevent that?
So before preventing anything, I will say that the goal is to understand and the goal is to distinguish what is a false to a true positive. For example, a true positive is something, a vulnerability, a CVE, that is really going to impact prod and that is going to be exploitable by attackers on the index server. On the other hand, false positive is yes, I saw that there was a misconfiguration, I saw that there was a security vulnerability, but is not going to directly have an impact on prod. So before trying to basically mitigate, you really need to understand the environment. You really need to distinguish what are true positive, what are false positive. And for this, you can use reachability analysis, for example, to really visualize, to really understand the context and the environment. Once you understand which is true, which is false, focus on the true ones and say, okay, how am I going to remediate? And now we can use AI. Once we understand, we can use AI to fix the issues. And we realize that I would say majority of the issues that we could find is because it has been done at the code level. So that's why I always think about shifting left at the SaaS level. So yes, first, don't think about remediation. Think about understanding your environment. Think about the two buckets, false to true positive. Think about reachability analysis, and think about using AI to do the remediation at the SaaS level or at the cloud level. But I will say at the code level first.
My last question, it will be on career in DevSecOps. Um, for a 2026 newbie, someone who wants to start out to be a DevSecOps engineer in 2026, how do you think they should learn? Let me start with, what tools do you think are necessary to be a DevSecOps, and what is the roadmap? How do you think they should learn?
Mhm. Just to know, I think I answer all of your questions on security and all, and people might think that I've been doing that for years. To be honest, I started really be interested in DevSecOps not even 1 year ago. So there's, I really want people to know, like not even 1 year ago, and I reached the level of the security engineers. Like I said, I am not. Like when I'm a proof, I'm actually a proof, a live proof that as long as you put your mind to it, you can accomplish everything you want. I didn't know anything about security 1 year ago. I didn't know anything about security, about SaaS, about CSPM. But one thing that I said is, you are going to work so hard to be at the top level of security engineers, to be at the top level. So for me, it's is about mindset. If you have the right mindset, you can learn everything you want. I took 40 certification in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks,
40.
40 certification in 2 weeks. I am the proof that once you put your mind on it, you are the best. I'm one of the best right now. Why? It's not because I have an education. I don't have education. I don't have an education on DevSecOps, and I've never been a security engineer. But I worked so hard. I learned so hard, and I learned because we have a great community of people who can support us, who can mentor us. For example, my mentor is Safe, the person who I did a webinar with in December, is principal security engineer at Twilio. Twilio is one of the most amazing companies in the world. Principal security engineer. The goal for you is to find mentors. I was lucky enough to find him as a mentor, for him to train me, and for me to be better than 80% of the rest. Why? Because I put my mind to it and I said, if people can do it, why not me? And reach from here to here. And then say, why, if people are here, how do I achieve from here to there? So now put your mind on it. That's why I never said it's process. That's why I never said it's about tool. That's why it's always said it's about mindset. You put your mindset to it, you can accomplish everything you want in life. I am building a company. This company didn't exist 2 months ago. Now we are a high growth company. Why? Some because there is no competition. We have competitors. But we are better than the rest because we put our mind on it. And we ship and we work 7 days a week if we need to do it. To be the best, you need to work like crazy. So for me, you can learn everything you want. Someone who is thinking DevSecOps, learn, take certifications, look at OWASP. What are the OWASP top 10? Once you have done it, learn how to code, learn how to break things, learn how, for example, how to contribute on GitHub project, learn how to help others, learn how to mentor people. And by doing that, I guarantee you that you will be among the top. And 1 year ago, you can ask people, 1 year ago, I didn't know anything about DevSecOps. Right now, I think I'm not too bad.
Wow. That's amazing. Now, you this is a question I was going to ask. This wasn't part of my question, but I had it in mind while you were speaking. You've spoken about the importance of having a mentor and also having a community, right? How it affects your
Yes,
learning. Now, um, what is the best way to find a mentor?
contact me. I will mentor you. I
Okay.
will- Everyone who wants to contact me. My door is always open. You are the proof that my door is always open. So basically, if everyone wants to contact me for me to mentor them, I'm working during weekends as well. I will do it. If it's not me, just look around. Who are the people who are speaking about the topics that you want? Who are the people who are thinking and speaking about security? Who are them? How can you create a relationship? Safe? I didn't know him. I built a relationship. He was very open, and I tend to think that he liked the mindset that I have. That's why he accepted to mentor me. So look around. Don't wait for people to give you things because life is tough. Life is tough. If you are waiting around, you will not accomplish anything in life. If you are thinking like what you can do, if you put your mind on something and you think you can do it, you can do everything you want in life. But if you're waiting for people to give you things, trust me, no one is going to give you anything. Life is not nice. Life is not a movie. If you don't do it by yourself, you will never accomplish anything. If you do it and you prove to yourself that you can do it, I will be the one on your road and I will help you. Whatever it takes, I will make sure that whatever you do, I will be your mentor and I will help you. And I guarantee.
Thank you so much, Tarak. I really appreciate this. One of the things I enjoyed, one of the things I enjoyed talking to people is that I get to be the first person who is being influenced by the wisdom you've poured out. It's really nice talking to you. Do you have anything to say before I release you to another meeting? Okay. Thank
No,
you so much.
the only thing that I will say again, the two things, it's not about tools, it's not about process, it's about you. If you are not convinced about who you are and what you want to be, no one is going to be convinced by you. If you're convinced by what you want to do, everything is going to work all right. Find the people who can open the doors, find the people who are looking to give back. I am what I am today thanks to the community. Without the community, I will be nobody and I will be no one and I will not be able to create an amazing company. So right now is my time to give back. But because people give me things, people help me be the better version of what I could have done if I were alone. So I would like to thank all of our community for believing in me for the past 4 to 5 years, and I would have done nothing without them. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're going to stop here today. We still have things planned. So this is a tester session for people who are in our community. Thank you. I really appreciate it, Tarak, for carving out 1 hour to be a blessing to us. Thank you so much. And I hope when we call you next time, you will be available. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I just checked now. There is no question online. If there's any question from anyone, of course, I will either reach out to you directly or send them across
Yeah.
to you. So, thank you again, and for everyone who joined this webinar. I want to say thank you to, and I hope it was really impactful for you. If you have any questions, drop it in our inboxes. You can also look for Tarak on LinkedIn. If you search for Tarak, is the only Tarak on LinkedIn. You see a small cloud by his name. You can always message him and tell him you saw him from this webinar. He's always open, like you heard him say. He's always open to answer questions. And I'm a proof of it. That's why he's here. So always open to answer questions, and he's open to mentor anyone who
Yes.
is looking for
And
mentorship in
Emily. And Emily.
DevSecOps.
So contact me anytime.
Yeah. All right. Derek, thank you so much, and I'll speak to you soon.